Hi, my name is Mike Sarles. I'm with USU Extension and the Rural Online Initiative. I'm excited to be here and talk to you today. Our program teaches remote workers how to work effectively from home and remote leaders how to effectively manage remote workers. Today I'm going to share some basic and advanced information about Zoom with you. Our agenda is as follows. We'll talk about installation, the main app window, profile, scheduling meetings, settings, and advanced settings. Then we'll talk about in-meeting settings, video and audio, virtual backgrounds, participant window, chat, file sharing, inviting participants, sharing the screen, whiteboard, and iPads, breakout rooms, polling, and then finally troubleshooting. To install the Zoom client, go to www.zoom.us/download and get the application. When you go there, it'll look a lot like this. You'll click on download, and once it's downloaded, you'll go ahead and install it just like you would any other software. When you run it, you will see a screen that looks like this. This is the main application window. There are four main icons in the middle of the screen. The first one is New Meeting. The second one is Join. Then there's Schedule and Share Screen. If you click on Join, you can type a meeting idea or personal link name in the box, and then click on Join to join a Zoom meeting. After you click Join, you'll see your picture pop up on a screen, and if you mouse over the three dots right there, you can rename yourself if the name in the bottom corner doesn't suit you. I like to put Super Mike. You can type it in there. All right, let's take a look at the basic meeting controls for Zoom. At the bottom of the screen, you have several controls. Some of these will not be visible to you since you're not the host, but if you are the host, you'll be able to see many of these. The first is the mute and unmute switch. A red line through the icon means that it is muted, or if it's not, then it will be a microphone without a red line through it. Same thing for the video. Next to those are two arrows pointing up. We'll talk more about those later, but those are menus where you can control and see what's going on with your microphone or your speakers or your camera. The next one over is Manage Participants. You will likely see participants if you're not the host. That is where you can see other participants' names in the meeting, and you can also raise and lower your virtual hand. The next one over is the chat. If you click on the chat window, it will open a window for a chat that's going on, or you can start a chat with others in the room or in the meeting. If you click it again, it will disappear. You can also make that chat join the window with all the pictures for your meeting, or you can have it float on top. Finally, over to the right is the End Meeting or Leave Meeting link. You can click on End Meeting, and if you are the host, all of the participants will be kicked out of the meeting. If you have the words Leave Meeting, it will just let you leave the meeting and everybody else will stay there. Going back to the main window, I'd like you to pay attention to the top right-hand corner. There's a small picture of me. If you click on that, you can go to your profile. When you click on profile, it opens a web browser and goes to your profile page in your Zoom account. As you can see, here is my picture. If you click on change, you can change your image. Down here is my personal ID. If I click on show, I can see my personal ID on this one and also on the link for my personal ID. Below that is my personal link that I can also give out to people to come to my personal meeting room. And below that is my email address and other information like the total number of people that are allowed to be in my meeting at one time, whether or not I'm licensed, and other information about time zone and things like that. Also, there are ways to connect to a calendar. You can change your password and your host key and other things like that from this profile screen. But most importantly is knowing your personal ID and what email address invitations and things will be sent to. All right, let's look at schedule. When you click on schedule, a new window will open and you can click and type the topic of your meeting, the date, times, and duration of your meeting, whether or not it's recurring, what time zone you're in, and then you can generate a new ID or you can use your personal meeting ID. I usually use an automatically generated ID, so I don't give out my personal ID to everyone. If you are meeting with somebody that you know well and it's not a problem and you know that your ID will not be posted everywhere on social media, then you can go ahead and give out your personal meeting ID. If you'd like to use a password, it will help you be more secure, and others cannot get into your meeting without that password. Below that is toggles your video on and off if you're the host, and if you're a participant in that meeting, whether or not your video will be turned on or off when you go into the scheduled meeting. You can also choose to allow participants to use telephone, computer sound, or both computer and telephone. I typically let my users choose whether or not they'd like to use their telephone or their computer for the audio. Finally, you can choose to have the invite sent in an Outlook format, a Google Calendar format, or other calendars. There are also advanced settings that we can check there. When you go look at that, you can also see that there is a toggle for enabling a waiting room. That's where people can wait until the meeting starts. You can allow people to join the meeting before you arrive. That way they can chat or have a conversation before the host gets there. You can also have it so that participants are muted when they enter the room so that you don't have to listen to background noise, children screaming, dogs barking, or otherwise. And you can make it so that people have to authenticate themselves by putting in their name and their email address when they sign into your meeting. Finally, you can choose to have the meeting automatically begin recording when you start it, and it can record to your computer or to the cloud. If you'd like someone else to be a host for your meeting, you can put in an email address of a registered Zoom user, and that person can also have access as if they were host for your scheduled meeting. In case you couldn't arrive or came late, somebody else could start the meeting for you. All right, let's look at scheduling a meeting on the Zoom website. Scheduling on the website is very similar. Same idea, a topic. You can enter a description for your meeting. You can use a template, which is a convenient way to store polls and other information about the meeting so that you can reuse it over and over for multiple meetings. Date, time, time zone, all similar, requiring someone to register or authenticate. Personal meeting ID, requiring a password, video on and off, audio, and so on. Very much the same. You can also record meetings. By clicking on the recording on the side, you can come to your recording page. You can see that I have some recordings here that I have made of meetings. You can also search to find a meeting that you have recorded previously, and it also lists both cloud recordings and local recordings. It's good to know that the cloud recording does take up a lot of space, and you are only allocated a certain amount of space as a free user or as a paid user. And so you might want to save your videos and then put them on another website like Box or Google Drive or somewhere else where people can access them rather than storing them in Zoom, because you'll run out of space rather quickly. Let's talk a little bit about the roles in meetings. The host is the owner of the webinar or the web meeting. They are the ones that have full control of everything, including all of the other host or co-host, panelists, and attendees, and what they can and can't do. Co-hosts share many of the controls that hosts have, and a host has to allow a person to be a co-host. They can also do lots of things like start and stop recordings, help with other things, see the participant screen and manage those things there. Panelists are full participants in the web meeting. Their video can be turned on and they stay on when attendees' videos are turned off. So if you had a group of people that you wanted to be able to participate in a web meeting, and then other attendees just view what the panelists were doing, you can do that as well. And you can turn off video and sound for attendees, or allow them to ask questions and turn their video on too. A lot of different options with Zoom. All right, let's go and talk about the settings and advanced settings of Zoom. By clicking on the gear at the top right-hand corner underneath your profile picture, you can access the settings for Zoom. There are multiple items on the left-hand side of this window. When you click on the gear, we'll start with the General tab and work our way down. You can make Zoom open when you start Windows. You can change things like minimizing the window to the notification area instead of the taskbar. You can use dual monitors. You can ask for a confirmation when you leave a Zoom meeting. I like that because it reminds me that if I accidentally click somewhere, I might be ending or leaving my meeting. It also shows connected time if you click this, and I like being able to see how long I've been in the meeting. You can ask for reminders just before your meetings, and you can start and stop your video when your screensaver starts so that it doesn't keep going. Later on, we'll see a place where you can give reactions to things that the host has said in the video meeting, and you can change the skin color of the thumb up that you want to use. All right, video settings. You can choose which camera you use. You can choose the format, either widescreen or original. You can enable HD or not. You can mirror your video in case your lettering on your background image is backwards. You can touch up your appearance, but I, of course, don't need to. You can display participants' names on their video so you can always see who everybody is, and some other options below that. With audio, you can test your speaker, test your microphone. You can make it so that you can automatically join with your audio when joining a meeting. You can mute your microphone when joining a meeting. You can use your space bar to toggle your unmute if you like by setting that setting. And you can sync buttons on your headset with the microphone toggle. Here's some things for sharing your screen. You can make it so that when a person enters goes into sharing, everybody will enter into a full screen view of their shared screen. You can also scale it to fit their Zoom window in case they have a smaller window right at that point. And you can also allow system notifications to be silenced when you're sharing your screen. That way you don't hear somebody's mail notification every time they're getting one. I'm not going to touch on much in chat. It works pretty well just the way it is. The virtual background is really useful. I like to have a virtual background, especially if behind me is really messy. Your computer, if it's powerful, can automatically cut out you from your background and then display an image that you choose behind you. If your computer is not powerful enough, you may need to use an actual green screen to have that work. I have to use a green screen with one of my computers. Another computer is great without it. To use a virtual background, you can add backgrounds by clicking on this plus button and then choosing to add an image or add a video. If you want to add a video, they're pretty cool, but they are kind of annoying after a while. But they need to be small, and I think the resolution can be up to 1280 by 720. You can choose the color of your background. I have green because I use a green screen, but if you have a solid background, that will also work. Just pay attention to the color of shirt or clothing that you're wearing, because if you are wearing a white shirt and your background is white and you turn this on, you will just be a floating head. You can choose where you would like to record video somewhere on your computer if it's a local recording, and you choose that folder here. You can optimize to use it with a third-party video editor like Adobe or some other program, and you can record during screen sharing, which is what I'm doing right now. We talked about profile a minute ago, so I won't go into that, but when you click on Edit My Profile, it takes you to the web version of your profile. Statistics, feedback, and keyboard shortcuts are all useful information about Zoom, and also lets you contact Zoom and let them know of a problem. The keyboard shortcuts are useful. You can learn how to start and stop your microphone or your camera with keyboard clicks, which can be more efficient than using your mouse. And accessibility allows you to use closed captioning and other meeting controls Closed captioning is not automatic. You do have to have someone that is actually typing the closed captions as you're speaking or as your meeting is progressing. You can click on View More Settings, and it will take you to an advanced Zoom setting area. Zoom has many options and capabilities for customizing a meeting the way you want it. Let's start with the beginning here. Hosting a video, you can start meetings with the host video on. You can start meetings with the participants' video on when they come into the room. The toggle switch over here lets you turn that feature on and off. I have it set for telephone and computer audio so that when somebody starts their web meeting, they can use either one. If you allow someone to join before the host, that means they can come into the meeting and have a discussion or chat for a few minutes before you arrive. If you turn that off, they will be forced into a waiting room until you start the meeting. You can choose to use your personal meeting ID when you're scheduling a meeting, or you can toggle this to allow a random number to be given instead of using your personal meeting room. Same thing when you start an instant meeting. This allows only authenticated users to join meetings. It means they have to put in their email address and their name and must do that prior to joining the meeting. When you require a password for meetings, that means that they have to put in a password before they can join the meeting. Same thing for a personal meeting ID. You can require a password for people joining by phone or not. And you can mute people when they come into the meeting automatically so that you don't have to listen to their background noise when it starts. I typically allow my users to chat. However, it may be useful to not have chat in certain circumstances. Also, you can prevent users from saving the chat once they can't right-click on it and cut and paste it. It will not let them save it at all. Also, you can allow people to chat one-on-one with each other. In a school setting, that might not be wise. You'll have students chatting back and forth, and you won't know what they're chatting about if you have that turned on. You can also have auto-save chats. They will save automatically and will give you a text record of that after the meeting's over. Playing a sound when participants join or leave can be useful to know when people are coming in and out. It can also become very annoying if people are coming and going during your meeting. So I choose that usually to turn that off. File transfer is good if you want to send files to users in the chat window during the meeting. There may be occasions when you want to do that. However, you may not want people to share files back and forth in some circumstances, so you could turn that off. Allowing a co-host is very useful. You can have them help you with the meeting. A lot of times I will have a moderator that helps me with my meetings, and having a co-host is important for that. Turning polls on and off is done here. If you turn this off, you will not see an icon for polls, and you won't be able to use polls in your meeting. So turn that on if you want to use polls. All right, the next is screen sharing. You can turn that on and off. You can either allow only the host or all participants to share their screen, and you can choose who can start sharing when somebody else is sharing. I always have it so that the host can share and nobody can kick me out of sharing my screen by sharing their screen. You can disable that also if you'd like on this next one. You can allow users to annotate things on the screen. That is useful if you're having a discussion and showing things to each other. However, in some classroom situations, students might draw things on the board that may not be appropriate, and so in some situations you want to turn that off. There is also a whiteboard setting, the next one down, where you can choose to show things on a whiteboard and have a discussion using that. We'll show more of that later on in our meeting. You can allow remote control of your screen using this one. You can also provide nonverbal feedback by clicking icons next to your name in the participants window, and this is where that's toggled on and off. You can allow people that have been removed from your meeting to rejoin if they come back in, or you can turn that off so people that are removed can't come back. This is where you allow people to rename themselves on their screen name, and you can also hide people's profile pictures in a meeting if you choose. Finally, you can, in this section, you can report people to Zoom that are not behaving appropriately and have them removed from the Zoom platform. Turning breakout rooms on is important if you would like to break people into groups and discuss a topic. We use that a lot in our meetings. And allowing the host to assign participants when you schedule is also a nice feature. You can have your breakout rooms pre-assigned before the meeting starts if you know who's going to be in your meeting. This remote support will turn off breakout rooms. It cannot exist at the same time. You'll notice that if I click that, it tells me that I cannot have remote support and breakout rooms on at the same time. Remote support allows you to help other people with their computer. Here's a toggle for closed captioning, saving captions. If you have a language interpreter or interpreters, you can also toggle that on and off so that people can real-time interpret in your Zoom meetings, and those that want to listen to different languages can. You can also toggle your virtual background on and off, and you can also set up a waiting room to allow people to go into a waiting room before they join the meeting. You can also have 3 levels of security with the waiting room. The first would be to allow people to just come into a Zoom meeting without you being there and go ahead and talk. You can choose to have a waiting room where people will come in as soon as you start the meeting, or you can choose to allow people in one by one as you admit them into the waiting room. You can also toggle this to allow live streaming of your meetings on Facebook or other social media channels, and also manage different email notifications for when recordings are available, when attendees have joined the meeting before you get there, when a meeting might be canceled, or other things like that. Finally, if you're an iOS user, this is useful to you. You can blur the iOS task switcher when you're doing screen sharing so that people cannot see. This is useful to iOS users. You can blur the snapshot on an iOS taskbar or task switcher so that people cannot see sensitive information on your task switcher bar. Also, you can allow people to have privileges of scheduling meetings for you. And finally, if you're integrating Zoom with some other application, these are the important keys that you may need to do that. All right, let's talk about Zoom meeting security. Zoom has been very focused on meeting security over the last couple of weeks. There have been some problems with their security, and they are working very hard to make sure that they are 100% secure. They've given some ideas on how to be more secure in your meetings. One is to set the host as the only one who can share a screen, so other people cannot share content that may be inappropriate. When you're scheduling meetings, use a different meeting link for each meeting. Let it choose one or generate one for you. If you share a link on social media, everybody will have it then. And then if you use that same link again, other people may come into your meeting unexpectedly. That happens if you use your personal meeting link and share that publicly. So I would warn against that. Always lock your meetings if you want to have a personal private meeting where you do not want anyone else to join. There is a lock function. We'll show that to you in a minute. But be aware that if you lock a meeting and then somebody accidentally leaves the meeting, they are not able to come back in until you unlock it and allow them back in. Require a password for all of your meetings. That way people can't come in unless they know the password. You can remove disruptive participants from a screen. I'll show you that in a minute, but you can kick them out of your meeting. You can also put people on hold or mute them, or you can put them back into the waiting room so that they can't come back into your meeting until you let them back in or the meeting ends. They won't be able to come back in. And you can disable your video to block unwanted images coming over the video if someone might be showing an inappropriate video. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the controls in a live meeting for security. You'll notice that there's a security icon. If you're the host, you'll see that. And when you click on that icon, you can lock the meeting, you can enable the waiting room or disable the waiting room. You can enable screen sharing for everyone, chat, and allow people to rename themselves. So those are things you can do on the fly while you're in a meeting. You can also manage your participants. You'll notice in this case, if you click on the More button, you'll get a new menu, and you can rename people from there. You can put them in the waiting room, and you can remove them. So you can take them out of your meeting if you want by doing that. All right, let's talk about some of the in-meeting settings, video, audio, virtual backgrounds, and all sorts of fun stuff. Let's take a closer look at the controls. We talked about the first two, the unmute and the stop video, and security. Manage participants, we'll cover in a minute. Polls, chat, screen sharing, recording, closed captioning, breakout rooms, reactions, and more. Finally, the end meeting, that closes your meeting for everyone. If it says leave meeting, then it means that you can leave. If you're going to end a meeting or leave a meeting and you don't want to end the meeting, you can assign host to another person in the meeting so that you can leave and they will be the host and the meeting will continue on. So let's talk about what you'll see when you start a meeting. You'll usually start in speaker view or gallery view. Speaker view allows you to see the main speaker at all times. The other participants will show up on the side of your screen. You'll only see a few of them at a time. You can drag that over and see more of them if you'd like, but usually it starts off with 4 or 5 like that. If you click on gallery view, you'll see all of your participants. If you have more than 49 participants on a Windows machine or 25 participants on a Mac, you will have multiple screens that you can scroll through to see all of the speakers. That's the difference between gallery view and speaker view. Down at the bottom, you can see there is a menu that you can click on next to the camera. You can choose your cameras there if you have more than one. You can work with your video settings, and you can choose your virtual background on the fly there. The next one over is the microphone settings, and you can choose your microphone, select your speakers, test your speaker and microphone. You can switch between computer and phone audio there, as well as adjust your audio settings during your meeting. Let's talk about the participant window, chat, and file sharing. The participant window is turned on by clicking on participants down at the bottom. In this case, we've got the chat window open, and you can see chat from multiple people there. You can see the chat by clicking on the chat button. All right, let's look at the chat window. Down at the bottom, you can see the chat icon. And if you click on that, your chat will open up on the side or as a floating window. You can see that it says chat here, and you've got people's names. You can see that they're chatting with everyone. You can also chat privately by clicking on this arrow or next to the word everyone, and it will list all of the participants in the meeting. You type your message down below where it says type message here. You can also upload files by clicking on the 3 dots and then clicking on the word file. And it will open a dialog box where you can choose the file you want to send. You find it, you click on it, and it will attach it to your message. You can choose to send it to one person by choosing a person from the list, or you can choose to send it to everyone in the chat room as well. All right, let's look at participants. You can click on Manage Participants at the bottom, and it will open this window here where you can see all of the participants in your meeting. You can see who the host is. You can see what other things are going on, whether or not their microphones are on or their cameras are on or off. Those are all displayed there for you. There are also icons at the bottom that you can use to indicate what's going on. If you want to say yes or no, you could type that there and the host could see those messages there. There are also more that you can click on, and you can see like a coffee cup and other icons there that have meaning in your meetings. At the very bottom of this, if you scroll down, you will also see, if you're a participant, something that says raise hand. We'll get to that in just a second. And there it is right there, raise hand. If you click on that, your hand will show next to your name, indicating to the host that you have a question or you would like to say something. If you're the host, you can see everybody else's, but you do not have that icon to raise your own hand. In this case, this person has raised her hand and would like to be recognized. When you are done recognizing the person, you can click on the hand either here or here to make it disappear, so you'll know that you've already talked to that person and you don't need to go back to them. Also, you can click on the more next to somebody's name, and you can choose to make them a co-host, make them the host, stop their video, chat with them, allow them to record, rename them, put them on hold, or remove them from the meeting, as we've seen before. All right, let's talk about inviting people to your meetings. When you schedule a meeting, you can invite people then, or if you start a meeting, you can invite people right from your meeting. You can click on the invite button that's in the Manage Participant screen, and you'll be given an option to choose from contacts that you already have, or you can choose to send an email to someone like this. You can choose your default email program, Gmail, Yahoo Mail. You can copy a URL that you could send to somebody for the meeting, or you could copy an invitation that you can then paste into an email and send to someone. This would give them all of the contact information, the meeting numbers, and everything they need to join your meeting. All right, let's talk about sharing the screen, whiteboards and iPads. Sharing your screen is started by clicking on the share screen icon at the bottom of your screen. There's a box that's green with an arrow pointing up. That's what you click on to share. When you share your screen, people can see everything that is on your screen. In this case, we are sharing our screen. You can see up here, you can change to a different shared window or a shared program that you want to do. You can pause your share and you can choose other things from this. There are controls next to sharing. You can have more than one participant share if you'd like. And you can also open this advanced sharing options screen where you can let only the host share, all participants share, or you can choose who can start sharing when somebody else is sharing. When you share, you'll be given a screen like this. It allows you to choose multiple screens. I have 2 screens on my computer, so I have screen 1 and screen 2. You can also share a whiteboard, and then you can share only specific program windows so that somebody doesn't see your desktop, but they only see the window that you want them to share. If you choose the whiteboard, you can draw on a whiteboard. Others can see it, and they can draw too if you give them that access. There are different tools to draw. There's also an eraser and different stamping tools to make hearts and X's and other things like that. If you want to share an iPad, then you can do that and use an iPad as the device to draw on. Some people find that more convenient to use that to draw using an Apple Pen, and so it makes it convenient using the Apple tools to do that. And you do that from that same sharing screen. Let's talk about breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are great if you would like to break into smaller discussion groups or brainstorming sessions. And so we use those a lot with our program. In order to have breakouts, you click on the breakout room button at the bottom of the screen. You're then given a window that lets you choose how many breakout rooms you'd like to create. You can choose based on the number of rooms. It will then do the math for you and tell you how many people will be in each room. If you want to do it manually, you can do that as well, and you'll be responsible for moving people into rooms once you've created those rooms. An important note is when you do breakout rooms, only people using the desktop application or a mobile phone application will be able to participate in the breakout rooms. If somebody has joined your meeting using a web browser, they will not be able to go into the breakout room, and they will stay in the main session with the host. And so you could always do a breakout in that room with the host, but we prefer to have people use the desktop app so they can have all of the options available to them. Once you break them out into rooms, then as long as they're all good the way you like them, you can go ahead and click on Open All Rooms. If you need to add a room or recreate the rooms to move people around, you can do that by clicking on the buttons at the bottom. You can also move individuals between rooms. If you don't want this person in this room, you can move them to a different room. Once you have it all the way you want it, you click on Open All Rooms, and people will be moved into the rooms. You can see that now it is open, and you as the host can join any of the rooms you want to. People will get a message like this on their screen that says the host is inviting you to join a breakout room, and they can click on the join button to go into the room. If they click later, they won't join. Once they click the join button, they will get a message like this, and then they will be taken to a breakout room with other people in the same room. When you are finished with the breakout rooms, you can click the button at the bottom that says Close All Breakout Rooms, and there's a countdown of 60 seconds when you close the rooms. Everybody will see a countdown on their screen that says that they have X number of seconds until the breakout room closes. They also have the option of leaving the breakout room should they want to. This is what it looks like when they're leaving the breakout session, and then they'll join back into the main meeting. Polling is a great way of getting information from your participants. Polling is usually set up prior to the meeting. You can set this up in the web application when you create your meeting, or you can go back in and edit your meeting to have polls. To create a poll, you click on the Add button at the bottom of your meeting information. Then you're given a pop-up window where you can add a title. You can make the poll anonymous or not, add a question, and then answers, and you can choose between a single answer or multiple answers. You can add more questions. You can delete questions. You can save that and add another one. When you start your meeting, your polls will be available. If you click on polling, it will pop open a window with your poll. In this case, I have one poll, and so there weren't multiple polls. But if you had multiple polls, there's a drop-down menu that lets you choose between the different polls that you've created. This is what the participant sees when the poll pops up. Participant can choose the answers that they want, and then click Submit. The person hosting will see this when they start the poll. They'll see how many people have answered. They'll see what the answers are and the percentages of the answers. And when the poll has reached enough responses, or when you're tired of waiting, you can click End Poll, and then you will see the results. If you choose to share the results with your participants, you can click Share Results, and everyone will be able to see it in the meeting. You can also relaunch the poll and do the poll again if you like. And that's what the user gets to see. And the user can close their window if they want. You'll also be able to see the results later, and there is a file that will download with your recorded meeting with those results. Troubleshooting. So the most common things that we see when somebody is participating in a meeting is that they don't get the invitation to join the breakout session if you're doing a breakout session. Remember, that is most likely because they're using their web client rather than, or their web browser, rather than using their application on their desktop or on their cell phone. If somebody can't go into the breakout session, that's usually why. If they can't hear their audio or their mic isn't working, have them check their audio settings on the bottom of their window. They can click on the arrow next to the microphone and choose a different microphone if they have multiple microphones. They can test their audio, or worst case, they can switch to telephone and dial in and hear the meeting that way. If the video won't turn on, it could also be because they have multiple web cameras and one's not turned on. Also, it might be because they don't have a webcam in the first place. We find that happen quite frequently. If their video won't turn on, there are ways to test that also. A lot of times we will ask people to go on with us separately and test their video if there's someone we're going to be working with on an ongoing basis. And that's it for this Zoom meeting presentation. Wanted to invite you to participate with us if you're interested in remote work, either as a professional, somebody who would like to work remotely, or as a leader, somebody who would like to manage people that work remotely. We have 2 classes. You can go to www.remoteworkcertificate.com/pro to take the worker certification class. And if you would like to take the leader class, you can go to www.remoteworkcertificate.com/leader to sign up for that class. We start classes frequently. The professional class is usually held every month, and the leader class is usually held every other month. Thank you again for participating. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or send me an email. My email address is mike.sarles, S-A-R-L-E-S, @usu.edu. Thanks again.